And our best regular radio program on migration goes to Immigration Law on Your Side, PHLV radio station, Attorney Flomy Diza and Mr. Johan Saison. Congratulations, Immigration Law on Your Side.
Reeves Immigration Law Group now brings you Immigration Law on Your Side.
All right, good evening everyone and welcome to another Immigration Law on Your Side right here at PHLV Radio. Coming to you every Wednesday, 7 p.m. dito po sa Las Vegas, Nevada. And in also other regions. Siyempre, napapanood tayo sa lahat ng mga platforms. Maraming salamat for joining us again. Mga kababayan, we are living in a very different immigration landscape, as you all know. You know, U.S. immigration is no longer just a complicated the process. It has become more strict, more detailed, and far less forgiving, even for small mistakes. We're seeing a lot of delays and syempre mga request for evidence, yung RFEs na binabanggit namin sa inyo ni Attorney every show, and more denials, and even in cases na akala natin just a few years ago were routinely approvable. Bakit? Dahil ang US government, mga kababayan, has significantly expanded what we call screening and vetting procedures, meaning every application is now being examined more deeply, more carefully, and mas matindi na ang cross-checking across government databases more than ever before. Well, to help us understand and see how to navigate the current immigration climate, we have, of course, kasama na naman natin ang ating super lawyer from San Francisco, California, si Attorney Flomy Diza from Reeves Immigration Law Group. Magandang gabi sa iyo, Attorney.
Magandang gabi, Kuya Johan, at babatiin na rin natin ang ating viewers and listeners ng Immigration Law on Your Side, PHLV Radio. Magandang araw po sa inyong lahat at tumutok po kayo sa ating programa ngayon dahil mahalaga at importante ang ating pag-usapan dahil itong policy ng USCIS ay implement lang ng end of April.
Nako, bagong-bago pala to, Attorney. But before we jump in on those updates, give us a little background kung anong ibig sabihin nito na pagka merong extreme vetting and mas expanded scrutiny sa mga application, anong ibig sabihin nito, Attorney?
Yes, Kuya Johan, ang increase screen vetting and screening procedures ngayon ng Homeland Security ay isa, para paintindihan po natin ito ay kailan intindihin muna natin at isipin natin ang ating immigration ngayon ay sistema na hindi na lang pag-review ng inyong application kundi i-verify ang inyong entire immigration story or history. Noong una kasi, Kuya Johan, they can just review the forms and your supporting documents. Ngayon, it's much further na, di ba? So they conduct and enhance background checks, including deeper coordination with some government agencies, kagaya dyan ng Federal Bureau of Investigation, yung FBI, to review criminal history, prior records, and even information that may not have been easily accessible noon. And not only that, as we learned in the past, ang Homeland Security o yung USCIS, they are cross-checking multiple government databases, yung immigration records ninyo, from USCIS, from Immigration Court, from Homeland Department of State, even IRS and TSA, as we mentioned, as we discussed in the past, and para i-compare yung immigration applications at yung current application nyo ngayon. And also, hindi lang yung mga bagong aplikante, Kuya Johan, kundi yung mga nakapending pa ngayon, they need an extra vetting. So we don't expect that your application that was filed last year or recently can be approved right away. And even if you have conducted your biometrics or fingerprints, they might still revet or redo your biometrics to ensure that they are in compliance with this new policy.
Nako, di uulitin pala. So, mas matindi. Attorney, with these things, sino ang mga apektado nito among all those who are applying for different immigration benefits? Who should be most concerned with these new vetting and increased scrutiny?
So lahat ng mga may pending application o nag-intend na mag-apply ng application dito sa United States, and even embassies at the at your home country. So, unang-una dyan, Kuya Johan, syempre yung mga current pending application ng adjustment of status, right? They're going to scrutinize if your prior applications, if you have made some misrepresentation, yung employment history, and also prior immigration violations. So, people who are here, whether you have stayed or you're in status, you're changing or adjusting status to a permanent residence. So, yan ang unang-una na maapektuhan. Siyempre, yung mga nakapending asylum applications, Kuya Johan, we have to, what do you call this, remind ang kababayan natin, yung mga high-risk countries that have current 39 countries that are ongoing. Frozen ang kanilang ang kanilang approval. So, fortunately, hindi kasamang Pilipinas dyan. Now, yung mga employment-based applicants, Kuya Johan, those employment must be financially stable, right? And then there should be fully compliant, not only with the Homeland Security, but also Department of State. Now, we expect more requests for evidence or notice of intent to deny in terms of the ability to pay ng employer, right? As we mentioned sa ating mga labor certification discussion, where the employer needs to show ability to pay not just at the time of filing, but also at the time of filing of labor certification until the interview ng aplikante. So basically for EB3 registered nurses or professionals, it will take about 3 to 5 years, no? Sa mga caregivers naman 5 years. In other words, mga kababayan, sa mga employers po natin na nagpe-petition, right, ensure that the ability to pay must be complied from the time you file the labor certification, or for the EB3 nurses from the time you file the I-140 up to the interview ng aplikante. And of course, ano na rin natin yung job legitimacy, right? Meaning that has the employer conducted the proper recruitment and advertisement process and ensure that there's no willing, able, and qualified U.S. citizen who were displaced, right? So that's one of the requirements. Now, in terms of people who are applying visa abroad, hindi lang immigrant visa, mga kababayan, kundi pati yung non-immigrant visa like B1, B2, H1B, L1, J1, lahat po yan, student visa, there's a social media screening and longer consular processing times. Now, I know that the DS-260, as we discussed in the past, there is a drop-down where you have to indicate kung ano yung social media platform po ninyo. No? So Facebook, Instagram, X, etc. So you have to write that down. Now, sa ngayon, they require you, and I have seen clients telling me that the consular officer abroad will require you to make your social media platform in public. So hindi mo pwedeng sabihin na privatize yan at nobody can just look into that. So one of those requirements, one of the screen vetting natin ngayon, Kuya Johan, is the social media when you are applying abroad.
Nako, especially ating mga kababayan sa Pilipinas, of course. Kung hindi, siguro tayo ang number one social media users sa buong mundo. Napakatindi ng usage of social media. So isa ito sa mga babantayan ng ating mga kababayan, that they will ask you to turn your profile public. Baka mag-request sila ng maging friends kayo para makita ang iyong mga activities. So speaking of our kababayans in the Philippines, which ones na mga kababayan natin ang talaga apektado nito, especially those who are applying in the Philippines or even those who are adjusting here in the US?
Yes, sa mga kababayan natin na nandito or naghihintay ng kanilang petition sa Pilipinas, like as we all know, yung family-based petition, yung immediate relative ko yan, wala tayong problema dyan dahil available kaagad ang visa. No? But we expect delays right now. In the past, we always tell our kababayan from the time we file, siguro ma-interview ka na in 1 year. Kasi available naman ang visa, di po ba? So, it's just the processing ng I-130, approval ng I-130, and of course, yung pag-process sa National Visa Center. Right? And then, saan natin na ma-interview kayo very soon after your case has been documentarily qualified at the National Visa Center. But now, there's a longer waiting time. So essentially, just be patient. And I always remind mga kababayan natin, if you're eligible to file now for any immigration benefits sa mga kamag-anak ninyo or for yourself, you just do it. Kasi wala tayong control ng processing time. Di ba? May delays, may kung ano mang gagawin pa ng, just to comply with what the law says. But to ensure na nasa pilahan na po kayo is to file right away the moment you're eligible.
Yeah.
Right? So, and then also yung mga nurses natin and caregivers, as we mentioned kanina, they have to look at the increased employers' compliance checks, whether there's an ability to pay, whether there's a legitimate job offer, yung mga kababayan naman natin na naghihintay ng interview for the immigrant visa, there's an issue about the affidavit support. As we encountered, one of the clients that consulted with us recently, where they have to ask a very detailed statement and documentation how they're going to support themselves. Now, in the past, for the requirement for the immigrant visa is an affidavit support from the petitioner. And if the petitioner does not meet the poverty guidelines, you can request a joint sponsor. Joint sponsor is essentially anyone who is a United States citizen over 18 who's able to comply with the financial documents, and of course meet the poverty guidelines as stated on the poverty guidelines rule. Now, that's not enough. As we mentioned in the past, where yung F3 petition that takes about 20 years plus years, by the time na ma-interview po kayo, retired na po yung petitioner at kayo din mismo your retirement stage sa Pilipinas and may mga karamdaman o may mga sakit po kayo. At that situation, of course, when you have your medical examination at St. Luke's at nakita nila meron kayong serious medical condition, or even not serious, nakita nila you're obese, right? Or you have your diabetes, then the consular officer requested them to provide a detailed statement how to support themselves when they come to the United States, whether they have already purchased insurance, etc. So the affidavit support is not enough. So be prepared for those. And of course, if you encounter that problem, feel free to contact our office and discuss with you on how to navigate and respond to that request.
There is a related discussion that we had here at the Immigration Law on Your Side, Attorney, maybe a few months ago or even a year ago, yung tungkol sa public charge. So pwede nilang balikan. We'll post the link below in this episode para mabalikan nyo ang discussion namin ni Attorney Diza regarding public charge. So give us, Attorney, a rundown of the things that people should avoid doing, or ano yung mga common mistakes na ginagawa ng ating mga kababayan and those seeking for immigration benefits kaya nagkakaroon ng mga delay at nakikita at nasisilip ng USCIS?
Yes, as we in the past administration, we comparing now, when you file for adjustment of status based on marriage or even from a family base, they don't tatawag na waiver interview, where 90% of the time you get an approval if you comply with the requirements and then just review the application and you think it's approvable. You provided some joint documentation about the marriage, and you get the green card in the mail, whether that's 2 years, 10 years, etc. Right? Even employment-based cases, you just receive the green card in the mail, and that's 100% of the, almost 100% of the time, even before Biden or even the Trump 1.0. But now, lahat yan is scrutinized, and there might most likely be an interview. Now, aside from waiting for the interview, what our kababayan should need to watch out for are the inconsistent information, especially if you've been in the United States for a very, very long time. Long time in the sense that you overstayed your status, right? 6 months probably, 10 years, 20 years. Especially if there were prior applications in the past, whether you extended status from a tourist visa, whether you have applied for a J1 waiver, whether you have transitioned from H1B into a labor certification or adjustment of status, etc., whether you applied for an asylum. So lahat yan titignan. And need to remember, especially if you have had a work authorization and social security number and you're filing your taxes, of course, yun ang unang makikita nila, that there were applications under your name, under your fingerprints, at titignan yung consistencies in terms of your application. So make sure that you are consistent, and to do that is number one, to consult an immigration lawyer, come to us and we assess your case. And if you don't have your records because you've been in the US for a very, very long time, we can request your immigration documents through Freedom of Information Act. Ganon din yung mga nasa Pilipinas, if they were what do you call this, history of application for a tourist visa or any type of visa, kailangan inform din ninyo ang immigration, when you file an application, and be truthful about those and be consistent. Ano bang nilagay mong trabaho mo? Nag-apply ka ng tourist visa like 10 years ago, right? Sabi mo meron kang grocery store, right? Yun pala, sari-sari store can be a grocery store, meron kang, sinasabi mo meron kang gasoline station or water station, etc. And if the officer confronts you at the same question, at sabi mo hindi mo maintindihan o wala ka nun, meron kang nilakip na supporting documents. So those are what we say inconsistency, right? Make sure that your information is consistent. And then yung financial documentation, as we mentioned kanina ni Kuya Johan, go back to our prior discussion. We have a very detailed discussion when this first came out, and we are experiencing now, in terms of the application of the public charge. And then don't ignore your prior immigration history, as we mentioned kanina, kasi when I always advise our kababayan that before going to the interview, we always think that the immigration officer has your records, right? Whether they're looking at the file, but now sa kanilang system, di ba? Kasi lahat digitized na, right? And they probably reviewed your application that you entered in 1996, and you applied for asylum. You said you were terrorized by this group, right? And you were confronted with the same question now, and you said you'll never be a member of the League of Filipino Students. I never participated in any activities of that group, etc. But this is actually what you wrote and what you signed now. So and there's an immigration consequence if the immigration officer finds out that you committed a material misrepresentation. In terms of asylum fraud, marriage fraud, mga kababayan, these are very, very serious offense, and we cannot overemphasize the impact, the negative impact, the huge impact on your future application. You are lifetime banned for any type of application. Mostly are, like 99%. There are very few limited exceptions for those type of applications. Now, in terms of misrepresentation naman, right, let's say you use a different name, you said this and that's not true, then you need a waiver. And in order for you to have a waiver, you have to have a qualifying relative who is a spouse and parents. And children are not qualifying relative. And not only a qualifying relative, mga kababayan, you also have to show that this qualifying relative would suffer extreme hardship if in case immigration will try to deport you. So those are the things, mga kababayan, that you need to look out for when you plan to file for your application.
Ayun, all right. So, Attorney, wrapping this up, what can you advise our kababayans, especially those who are getting into this long journey of immigration? What should they do, Attorney, para maiwasan na masilip ng immigration?
Yes, mga kababayan, itong extreme vetting, additional, ano tawag nito, yung ating discussion ngayon, increase screening and vetting procedures ng USCIS ay bago. Although this has been done in the past, right, by doing your fingerprints and biometrics and checking your FBI. Ngayon, it's more enhanced, right? Meaning that even those small things that you think are not already no longer in the system, what we advise our kababayan, if you think that at one point you were arrested and fingerprinted, and even if you requested for what do you call this, like a fingerprint checks, right? So let's say this happens in Las Vegas and you request the Nevada state to provide the fingerprints and see kung meron kang records. That's really, really important. And also, not only the state where you resided, and if you have resided in multiple states, it's also recommended to do the FBI fingerprint checks. Because sometimes, mga kababayan natin, and a lot of applicants, they try to not remember or ayon lang sabihin sa iyo kung ano yung mga minor things, and not necessarily like they're lying to you, but they thought that these things are not important because this happened long time ago, or hindi naman sila na-convict, right? Although they were arrested and charged, etc., fingerprinted. The question on the immigration form, mga kababayan, is have you been arrested or charged, right? So just be truthful that I was arrested at one point in San Francisco, California, but there's no charge filed. This is the record from the police department, right? There was an arrest, but there was no charge filed. So yun ang tandaan ninyo, mga kababayan, right? That immigration now, as we mentioned sa ating opening kanina, is not just about filing the application form and with supporting documents. We all know that the Trump administration we just second year, January, right? So 1.5 years, so we have 2.5 more years with the Trump administration. We expect strict enforcement of immigration. As we mentioned, it's more detailed and less forgiving. But again, if you do it correctly, there's always a way to get an approval. We still have seen many approval cases, Kuya Johan, and we publish them sa ating social media and ating website na hindi naman hopeless lahat. Although there are cases that what were approvable in the past are deniable now, right? So it's kind of frustrating, and what we do is we advise our kababayan the next step: don't give up, especially if you've been decided that you want to stay in the U.S. with your family, right? You need to keep fighting until the end, and hopefully that the immigration officer would see what the law says and apply the law correctly and eventually approve your case.
Ayun, maraming salamat, Attorney. And napakagandang message yan sa ating mga kababayan, especially those who are like losing hope already. Parang akala nila masyadong mas mahirap ngayon. But like what you said, if you do it correctly, itong American dream is still achievable. Ano po, Attorney? So, Attorney, maraming salamat for giving us some pointers today sa kabila nitong mas striktong pamamaraan at pag-approve at mas mahaba siguro na ngayon na pag-apply sa immigration. But before I let you go, Attorney, para sa ating mga kababayan, tuloy-tuloy ang public service po ni Attorney Diza dyan sa ating mga kababayan sa Bay Area. Meron pong mga activities dyan sa ating konsulado. Attorney, can you give us some updates with regards to your activities out there?
Yes, mga kababayan, the Integrated Bar of the Philippines and the Philippine Consul General in San Francisco continue to provide free legal services sa ating mga kababayan. You can also call us, right? Check the website ng Philippine Consulate General every first Friday of the month. Since yung May 1 is Mayo 5, May 1, right? Walang pasok ang consulate. We are conducting our free legal services this Saturday, May 8, sa consulate from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. May mga immigration lawyers, may mga Filipino lawyers specializing in other other branches of law like family-based employment and also Philippine laws. You can ask all these questions during the free legal services. On top of that, mga kababayan, we also provide we'll be conducting a talakayan. It's called a public forum sa ating mga kababayan din sa consulate on May 15, the following Friday from 5 to 7 p.m. You can check our website and our social media. It's going to be from 5 to 7 p.m. It will be, I'm one of the speakers. There are two other immigration specialists who discuss about the current immigration ng Trump administration and of course pathway to citizenship or residency and other options sa ating mga kababayan, lalong-lalo na nandito ngayon. So
and
keep...
Also, Attorney,
yes.
bakang nabalitaan ko, meron tayong bagong Consul General sa San Francisco.
Yes, we have a new Consul General, Arnel Talisayan. He's from Quezon Province and also used to be a deputy Consul General sa Beijing, China. And his term started, I think, around March. So yeah, watch out for it. We already have our taon ito welcoming him, and also we already met with him and discussed further collaboration between the IBP, immigration, Filipino lawyers and consulate on how to serve the community better.
All right. Welcome po, Conjen. Maraming salamat po sa inyong serbisyo. Attorney, maraming salamat again for this wealth of information that you have imparted to our viewers and listeners sa ating immigration law on your side.
Maraming salamat, Kuya Johan. I'll see you next time.
All right, maraming salamat mga kababayan. Immigration today is no longer just about eligibility. It's about credibility, consistency, and preparation. If we stay informed and proactive, one can still achieve the American dream, one step at a time. Ito po ang inyong immigration law on your side. We'll see you again next time.
Reeves Immigration Law Group has been representing immigrants for nearly 40 years. Reeves Immigration Law Group has been fighting for its clients through experience and expertise. With immigration lawyers you can access at reasonable fees, even on Saturday. Payment plans are also available. Call us for your immigration solutions. We can do worldwide telephone and Skype consultations. Reeves Immigration Law Group, 1-800-795-8009. Reeves Immigration Law Group has offices in Los Angeles, San Francisco, China, and Philippines. See us at www.rreeves.com. Reeves Immigration Law Group, 1-800-795-8009.
Reeves Immigration Law Group has just brought you Immigration Law on Your Side. Wednesdays, 7 p.m. Pacific on PHLV Radio.